server. Well, I'll wait 10 seconds for Justin.
Okay. All right. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ned. How are you?
Yeah, great. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. Nate?
Nate's on, Dad. He's currently muting his mic.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hi, Nate. And Justin is here. Okay, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I'm just going to go right first. Hi, Justin. Before I get started, does anyone, I know a lot of communication has been with me as the intermediary between people. Does anyone have any very general questions, not so much about where the site is, but anything core with what we're registering, anything with any confusion on Chris's role, anything like that, or is everything pretty clear?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to go through a lot of basic things today. I think we're not going to be too long. This is going to be, I wanted to establish this meeting is an every 2-week thing, number one. Future meetings, starting a couple weeks from now, it's going to be a very intensive screen share showing current site and asking a lot of questions on the end. But I wanted to go through all the core stuff, make sure there's no confusion. And I did have a couple of questions that we have to resolve on the end. So. Okay, I wanted to start with some general reviews from the entity and planning. First off, to reiterate to everyone, Chris is initially throwing in $200,000. Thus far, he's thrown in $110,000, and he'll be throwing in the remaining in March. So it's been a monthly allotment of approximately $50,000 to $60,000 on the end. Thus far, we haven't had any expenditures. We do have still the app that we began. We're going to be executing that in the next few days on the end. That's a $40,000 fixed expense from a starting standpoint. That's all we really currently have on the queue, aside from a couple minor expenses that we have set up with databases and way to contact dentists. The LLC, me and Inad, more so Inad, has been speaking with an attorney the last couple weeks about just making sure we're doing everything right here because we are having a lot of sensitive information. And long story short, we're going to be registering. Remind me what type of LLC, Inad? I know there's two of them.
What do you mean what type? LLC is an LLC. There are no types. Initially, we're debating whether we do an LLC or whether we can do a corporation, S corporation. However, digging into it, it looks like we cannot do an S corporation UPGO being an S corporation. So LLC is the only and best, alternative right now because C corporation is different. So we will be doing an LLC, and I wanted to make sure to explore the different area and ask all the questions, to the attorneys if there is anything that we are missing. And it doesn't look like there is. So I will go ahead without the attorney, through probably legal Zoom, which, I have used for at least 15 years. Now, probably I will go ahead and initiate the process to do the LLC request, the EIN, and, after we have it all official, I'll open the separate bank account that will have Dental Insider basically as the name of the account, and, we'll transfer the $110,000 that Chris has already contributed there, and from now on we can accept money directly into that Dental Insider and use it for all expenditures, etc. But so I anticipate the process will take about 2 weeks probably to complete it by, I'll keep everyone posted if we can do it earlier within a few days, just to make sure registration is complete, the number is in, and to be able to take it to the bank and fill all the necessary paperwork, etc.
Ned,
yes.
With the LLC, I know you were talking about the S Corp. Isn't that just a status that we elect for tax purposes anyway?
Say it again.
We're doing the LLC, but isn't S Corp? Don't you elect S Corp status after you've set up the LLC just for tax purposes?
No, we don't elect any. LLC is a separate entity by itself. It's identical as far as tax purposes, as tax is concerned, because the corporation S is an entity through which, we don't pay taxes through the corporation. but anything that happens in the corporation is transmitted to the owners. So if we have any gains at all, it's reported and distributed to the owners and all taxes. So the corporation does not pay taxes. The owners pay taxes on the corporate gains. And the same thing for the losses. The losses are distributed or attributed, if you want, percentage-wise, according to the percentage of ownership to the owners themselves. LLC is similar entity as far as taxing is concerned. So the LLC does not pay any taxes or anything. The LLC, what it is a vehicle basically to give us immunity, personal immunity, so it's not, we're not liable personally, but at the same time, we will be the owners, each by the percentage. So here we will have 75% for UPGO, which is a corporation, and those 75% will be distributed to the four of us, and 25% will be for you, Chris, and, everything. So if 1 year we lost, for example, you can take 25% of the entire losses and use them as a write-off from your other income. But hopefully we will never see any loss, that we will always, make money, or maybe the first year even, but then start making money, and then the income will be distributed proportionally. So you get 25%, and this is what you report as income, probably passive income from investment.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, the one thing I had on the point, there are 4 kinds of LLCs. I just Googled for it. There's member managed, single member, multiple member, and manager managed. We don't really need to discuss it, but just a reminder, there are 4 types on the end. So.
Well, there are different types. So whenever it's time, it's not correct. Someone has to be responsible. So I will assume that responsibility, and I will be, managing the LLC by itself. And if I need anything, an illegal issue comes up, etc., I will have access basically to legal help if we need to. But otherwise, we'll try to accomplish everything in an orderly fashion, and hopefully once we start operating officially, that it should be easy to handle and to manage. And of course, as we go, periodic reporting to everyone from the financial point of view is going to occur.
Okay, so aside from that, we're going to be registering a trademark for the name dentalinsider.com. We've done our diligence on what else is out there.
I think we have to do that, in my opinion, especially that it doesn't seem like it has been registered, even if some, other businesses are using the word. Like there is a publication, the Dental Insider. There is another website, about Dental Insider, etc. But I understand that it has not been trademarked. So I think it is imperative that we trademark it.
Yeah, so we're going to be trademarking it. It's not going to be 100% going through. The reason for rejection would be it's too broad to say something as simple as insider. But either way, it's a few $100. We're going to go through with that.
Or the name, the copyright. But we will cross those bridges. But first things first, the LLC comes first. Once we have it done, etc., then we'll address the other issues.
Okay, so we're going to be doing a trademark. We're going to be, aside from that, the lawyer
reiterated or copyright. So whichever is more appropriate for us.
Yeah, trademark's going to be more appropriate for our use case. So either way, we're going to have a terms and agreements and a privacy policy on the site, just like we do for all our sites, and that's pretty much going to cover us all on the legal end. What we're probably going to be doing in the next 2 months, once we have things up and running and a bit more firm about the details page, we're going to be doing a patent for the algorithm itself that we come up with the rank to dentist, but we are a little bit far away from that. My research, that's pretty much what everyone does, and it's also a little nice kicker to make clear that people aren't supposed to know how it's created, to say it's a patent pending algorithm to determine the highest quality dentist, etc. Any questions on I guess that's the legal and business side. It should be wrapped up in the next 2 weeks. Any comments anyone has to make?
Not on my end.
What's up?
No.
All right, we're good. Anyone else?
Oh, nothing from me.
Okay. All right, where we're on my end, I'm not going to go on but we know as a whole that the premise here is I'm going to be almost wholly doing this myself until we have the site closer to up and running. Justin's going to be jumping in once we're at the design phase, once we finish all the core pages. It seemed like we've been at a little bit of a stall the last few weeks. I know I have sent to all of you the best dentist page and all of the different pages we've had, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of progress. I wanted to share with you guys exactly where I'm at with that and how much longer I think it'll be. Number one I wanted to bring up, I'm going to share my screen now, but it's nothing you have to look at too close. So simple question and use case here. I'm sharing my screen right now. All I'm doing is showing the basic screen from ZocDoc. So our current issue that I've been running into and has been an issue is, let's say you're looking for a dentist within 49221. By default, every site chooses either showing a dentist or showing the practice as a whole. For me, the problem is right now we have both of them. We have all of the information in its entirety, and it's been messy when we try to, for instance, if someone wants to know only Chris in the area, to show up Christopher Neal as separate from the practice itself. My personal opinion is the common sense. People are going to want the practice more than the dentist. But the hurdle there is when it comes down to the best rated dentist and rank, it's been a little bit sticky on the end. So we pretty much have to go with one or the other is the only simple way to do it. I tried putting in both of them to show different columns for dentist and practice, and then when I went through myself, it just seemed a little bit messy. So first I'll go, I guess, from each. Chris, what are your thoughts on, without overthinking, all these things need to be thought simply of showing dentist or practice if I'm looking for someone?
I think the practice is key because that's just the way that things are going these days. Way more group practices. The days of the single sole proprietor are going by the wayside.
And yeah, we're talking about from the customer perspective. So I'm Sue, Sally, Joe. My first search right now is to say, okay, a dentist within. So here, instead of Dr. Mark Becker here, we would show his practice instead. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and there's no way to branch off and show, like, under that, a second. Yeah. I know you were saying it was a little messy, but, some kind of branch that is showing the 3 doctors under that?
Well, the way we already have it is once you click on a practice page, you click again and see the doctor. That's not a big problem. It's just about keeping this really simple and clean from everyone else to not have 10 levels of deep, If I want to click and view someone I want to view. I'm working on that. I just wanted to hear. Justin, do you have thoughts on that, just from your gut instinct between the two?
Well, I think we should put ourselves in the perspective of actual potential patients and what a patient would be searching for when it comes to reviews. They're going to be searching for a dentist reviews, but they'll want contact information for the office itself, obviously. I think it'd be helpful to have some feedback from actual patients. I don't know if this is something that Chris could work through his dental office in terms, or we could just find another avenue to obtain feedback. But what do actual patients search for? What is more effective from an actual user rather than us making a decision on behalf of all those users?
I can answer that right now. Having gone through this recently, I can answer that exactly. You look at the office. You don't look at the doctors. The office rating. I mean, I've literally had to find it out for a while ago.
That's the instinct I would have. Yeah.
Yeah, the office seems more logical to me, as I said originally, without overthinking it. The issue is it'll get a little bit messy with the fact that we have some pages focused on dentists outside of practice, but for this simple search, it was just that's my thought too. If there's not too much more to do with my practice for now, and block it all out, and then figure out how to creatively link the dentist ratings as well.
We create a pretty simple hierarchy for or relationship between the dentist office and the dentists that belong to that office. I don't think that's a difficult relationship to output on the website.
Yeah, we have that hierarchy currently. If you are on a page and you click on I don't know if I have one of those links open, but if you click on a practice page and you click again, it shows all the dentists within that practice. So that is a hierarchy we already have. It was more about the fact that, once again, in every other site's case, the next step is immediately to the details page versus an intermediary wanting to ask questions about dentists. You know what I mean on that end?
Right.
Now, do you have it Are you able to break it down into the specialties? You know, if someone's looking for an oral surgeon or a periodontist, etc.
We have all that. We have more than enough. The two things I've been dealing, and this is also something I just wanted a quick overview. I have to deal with this before showing it to you. In 2 weeks, we will be walking through all this. This will be done by then for our next meeting. But the main two schools of thought here is what's going to be a filter. In this case, a specialty is a filter, something you add to drill the information versus something like a rating showing on the page itself. We have too much data. It's too hard to explore everything. So I've been keeping it simple, and I think ZocDocs and having specialty zip code, having insurance there as an almost default, then adding a rating on top of that is the 4 core filters, and then of course having an advanced search option. See, I don't want to dig super. I'll just let you know that's what we've been cleaning up for the most part. It has been very messy when we have full data sets for both. We already had separate pages for all of them. But at the end of the day, like we knew starting out with this, the simplicity needs to be for the right answer. And remember, as many side pages as we have are always going to revert back to what is a real life customer going to use it for, regardless of how we target the dentists. I wanted to do a any other comments on that or?
No?
Okay. I wanted to do a quick summary again of what we're working with as a whole from a data perspective and assets. I know I've talked to you all kind of individually, but I want to do one summary. What we have is all the information from health grades. We have it all set up to update on a weekly basis. So right now we have everything from health grades. They do have separate profiles for physicians and clinics, and we have it all automatically updating. We have all the information from Google+. Google+ is about 80% of the time clinics versus personal. It's made to be clinic, but people who don't have a clinic are creating them with their name anyway. We have profile views is something we have for each dentist, so we're able to see and order how much of them have rank. It's something that we're going to be incorporating into an algorithm. Something that's going to be
profile views. Sorry to interrupt. Profile views from Google+.
Correct. Well, you were aware that Google+ shows that. Do you know that, Justin? Or?
No, I didn't. I don't work with it much.
Okay. So that's a really big plus. I've looked everywhere. I have not seen Google+. It doesn't matter where we go. I haven't seen profile views listed in any kind of database. You see right here the number of views that are shown. With Google+, the number of views include people who go on your map. It includes any pretty much communication with Google as a whole with that particular entity. So that is one of the big, of something that even Google's default API did not provide that information. We did have to create something custom, but I think that's a great one as a whole when you talk about what's more prominent and popular. We have all the data from Yelp. We also have updating there as well. The current updating on all of them are currently set at between 7 to 10 days based on our server speed, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we need to even think about any of this for months down the road about the perfection of the data, but I think I've gotten to the point where it's functional. And we're still working. It should be done by Wednesday. I'm getting it all into one clean, I say database, but pretty much one Excel file versus being all separate and going all over the place. We have had some back and forth when it comes down to thinking we're done then needing to get or clean up more information. Something else we've done on this end, if everyone's aware, a lot of profiles, about 15% of total profiles have an actual picture image. And it looks ugly to always have thumbnails everywhere. What I grabbed on this for the hopes of the practice itself is, in Chris's example here, a lot of dentists are uploading pictures of the practice. We downloaded all of these for all the practices as well. So my thought process is, as opposed to health grades and everyone else having a really ugly thumbnail, if no dentist pictures there, for the practice we can use one of the pictures from their Yelps that's usually of the practice itself. Okay, on top of that we have we went through all of the Google, Yelp, and health grades where a website was listed. We stored all that information. We got about 10% of them as a whole have them. We did special searches, and we took all of the websites we could based on the doctor's name. What that means is if we looked up Christopher Neal and he has a site under there, we automatically grabbed as many sites as we could from the 200,000 dentists. I believe the number's at right around 70,000 for the number of websites we have. So that's in the same kind of field, the same as having all this other information, what the dentist website is. Once we got the websites, we ran scripts going through all the websites and grabbed all of the emails we could from the websites. So Justin, more specific, and Nate, of course, is the contact page is where we got all the emails. For the time being, I didn't want to grab 50 of them from each, but would you guys agree that the contact page is going to have a correlated email if we're reaching out for the most part?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Or a header or footer, but contact page is the best place to start.
Okay, that's what we have for now. We had it set up. We did try collecting on the site, and it just got really messy. This is all on the basis of health grades, Yelp, and Google does not give any information on email. It's all for the sake of not wanting people to bulk contact, but guess what? We're going out of the way to make sure we have that anyway. So we will be in a position to be able to target in the future in our early campaigns to do something like do a search and say, who are the 5 most popular dentists in this zip code area in Chicago? All right, let's send them a targeted email letting them know why their person across the street has a higher rank than them if they're interested in improving. We will be able to do all that kind of targeting, having this data cleaned up a bit. So that's pretty much it on the asset perspective. I know everyone kind of knew that, but just to have a clear understanding of all the third-party data that we have. I personally think that that positions us very well to be the kayak of pretty much the kayak of this industry. We've all talked about before the hurdles of launching is something new, but if we're considered the kayak, and someone can remind me, I believe it's Trivago's doing a lot of marketing right now for hotels to be something similar, versus kayak has been the do-it-all search engine with the most data. I think that's a good way to position ourselves, and it's very factual now, is none of the other resources have anywhere near as many consolidated reviews as we're going to have. Oh, on top of that, the last thing we have is, so for every practice we have the number of views, the ranking, all the top-level data. What we don't have in its completion is the actual reviews. When it comes down to actual reviews made by prospective people who went on the site, we have a max of 5 of them for every Google Plus account, and we have 1 of them for Yelp. So that's not a huge negative. We're not even using them on the site yet, but that comes down to having all of the text for the reviews themselves versus just knowing how many there are. For the rest of them, we are linking it to Google and Yelp directly so they can see all the details, but the bigger reason to have them ourselves is to be able to do any kind of filters. If we want to add something into the algorithm, if someone says really shitty as 2 words for a dentistry, we want to add that in as a negative impact. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we can do. The last thing I've added as of recently is for everyone other than Chris knows this to a degree, but for Al Jazeera, we messed around a little bit with using sentiment analysis scripts. What that means is, Justin or Nate or Chris, have you guys noticed as of recently that Facebook has implemented on group discussions the sentiment, how happy and angry and whatnot people are? Has anyone noticed that?
No.
Okay. Justin, have you noticed that by chance?
No, not at all.
Okay. So long story short, we already have a setup that we are piggybacking off work we did before that can go through all the users' comments and say the sentiments of that user. That's the kind of stuff that's it's a bit sophisticated for this particular industry, but it's getting hot in a lot of others. So if we have nothing more than people are generally elated in their contacts with Chicago Kids Pediatric Dentistry, that's going to be something real slick, and that the going to conferences mentioning stuff like that without explaining how it works, I think is going to go pretty far. I haven't implemented that on the site yet, but I do have it for all the comments that we have, and I think it's a really nice touch when we're trying to be cutting edge, so to speak, and when people are going to run into what's the difference between you and them. That's pretty much it on what I wanted to show from the site perspective, where we're currently at with this. Our next meeting in 2 weeks is going to be showing this on the actual site and then having a bit more feedback. But I will say, as we've said from the beginning, there's so many minor details here. It is difficult in this group setting to ask more than one question. Once we have everything live, then we can have more nitpicking. But I want to stress to everyone that even though we have all this extra data, we will not be able to use everything. That's been my big hurdle. It's just too much. We have to use practicality here. In the future, we can figure out subtle ways to add it. But we don't want to try to go over people's heads with any of this, which is what we all knew would be one of our concerns with all the cool little stuff right now. So. Aside that, one update to give everyone is we've been doing a lot of work on our Sitealytics engine on being indexed in Google. That pretty much is our core strategy here, is creating millions of different pages when people Google different dentist names, and in return that's going to generate a lot of organic traffic that people are going to end up on Dental Insider. That's our biggest launch vehicle. In my mind, that's our biggest key to success. whether or not on the low end we might hit 10,000 people a month versus 1 million a month over the course of a year. That's going to be a big difference in value. So we have been deploying our Dental Insider team on Sitealytics to do a lot of real-life testing and play out where the current SEO market is at before we go with something much more important such as Dental Insider. And the results so far have been great. We've also done it for one of our other clients who wanted to get all of his links indexed. So our original strategy, I don't see any deviation with assuming we're going to be getting a lot of traffic from people searching here. The big question mark is going to be how high of a position do we get for most of the doctors, because our goal in the end of the day is going to want to be to get on the first page for as many doctors, as many best of keywords possible, and that's the one thing that we're not going to have a good idea of probably for about 3 to 6 months.
Hey, Pat, one minor detail. I haven't researched a lot of this. I just bookmarked it to read later. The Penguin Google algorithm update was released this past week, so that's something that needs to be looked into for both the Sitealytics and whatever's baked into this.
Okay. I know the Penguin's biggest thing was mobile. That was by far their biggest detail there, right?
Mobile and also duplicate content.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have so many releases with so many things people say. It's been hard to stay exactly on it, but, I mean, all we can do is try to stay on top and use real use cases like we did with Produce at Last and Sitealytics. I mean, I just don't know what else we could do, you know, so.
No, yeah, and I just want to make sure we're staying abreast of anything new that's being baked into their algorithm that we can take advantage of.
Do you know much about canonical links, Justin, just that term in general?
Not a lot, no. I know what they are, but I don't necessarily know how to optimize them best for our use case.
Yeah, that's been my biggest black hole is just the whole, you know, the canonical is supposed to identify if you have duplicate content. In a lot of cases,
right.
To not analyze. That's been my biggest black hole is the usage, because I heard about that stuff back in 2007, but almost no big sites using it. So the big Google duplicate content thing is still not going to be very black and white. So while I have you, so from what you've seen on the HTTPS 2 thing, do you think it's worthwhile? We got an estimate of a few $100s to try doing that for Sitealytics. The only reason to do that would be to, of course, eventually do it for Dental Insider. Do you think it's worthwhile, or do you think the HTTPS thing makes it a bit messy?
I think it'll make it messy. Okay, but it depends on how big of an impact that has in their new rankings, and that's to be determined at this point because it's so new.
What about the page load speed? From Jitendra told me he can guarantee 3 times as fast on the current Sitealytics as an example. I mean, which should in theory. I'm just confused. I'm just a little bit concerned because it's something new. You know, that's the only reason. So.
Right. Well, anything new is you can kind of approach. You got to approach it slow because that is a major. With a site with that many links and that much going on, it's a major technical upgrade. So.
As your gut, should we do it for Sitealytics as a test? Do you think it's worthwhile, or I know you had said your recommendation is no. What are your thoughts on that?
It's worth a test, yeah. There's no reason not to test, but you need to make sure that we're making benchmarks for before and after for comparison's sake.
No, we've been doing that on all the sites we've been doing that. But yeah, definitely that's important. So.
Yep, for sure.
Less detail to wrap up. I was going to go through this in one by one. I don't think we really need to. Everyone has it. But I CC'd everyone. I know a couple of you weren't aware of this document that was made, which is very a broad idea of our launch strategy for Dental Insider as a whole. It goes through with what's it used for, what's our goal, monetization, the different steps. We know this isn't going to be followed perfectly, but I still think it's pretty relevant. And has anyone read through this? Have any questions or comments? Or how many of you have already read through this before, out of curiosity? Obviously, Anna has.
I read it today just before, 10 till 5, so.
Yeah, I'll read it when we're done here.
Nate, have you?
I haven't had a chance to look over it yet.
Okay, and once again, this was a couple months ago. This isn't 100% firm. This was on my direction, cleaned up a little bit, but I think it's somewhat applicable, but this is what we're going to be getting into a lot more of this planning once we get all of these little wrinkles out of the way to have a site going.
Last, this is on the roadmap. Sorry, go ahead.
What's that, Justin?
I was just going to say a summary like this that can be used as a roadmap is going to be important for us since there's so many members involved, just to stay so we're all on the same page in terms of the direction.
Chris, were you saying something?
Yeah, this is on that Basecamp thing that you just gave me access to today, correct?
Correct. And I CC'd. I made a comment today that said document we are referencing in meeting today, and I added on there, and I made sure that all of you received an email today. So if you get your email, Chris, you should have gotten an email. And once again, this isn't a perfect, it's just a general guideline. I know we need to do a lot more of this planning. It's just been difficult for scenarios like I brought up before to say what we're going to do versus running into the situation and just adjusting. So I'm going to do the best I can based off our clinic, but we'll see how it's currently set up. And my guesstimates now, of course, everyone's concerned about time. Like everything, this has been delayed 80 times. Everything's taken longer. I'm confident by our next meeting, which is going to be 2 Sundays from now, that I'm going to have a roadmap, meaning we're not going to worry about how nice it looks, but have all these pages complete with the filters for everyone's review to see if there's any little polishes needed. And at that time, we're probably going to have Justin's going to start getting more involved maybe a week after with the design phase of this. And I'm hoping by the end of February, we can finally say we have a completed site. That's a completed site that's fully functional. We're not going to have all of our monetization asks. We're not going to have 50 different, we're not going to have pages asking people to pay us money, anything along that lines. But our core and the biggest thing we need is to have this a functional site that users can use tomorrow to go through. From there, once we make the site functional, what I label myself as ask pages, we're going to be doing, we're going to be discussing much more, a lot of one-page asks that are going to be targeting dentists, which could be nothing more than advertising on, are you interested in selling your practice? Are you interested in getting discounts on your practice through Dental Insider? And that's a whole different step once we finish the actual main product, which is the search capabilities and usage for people as a whole.
Here's a question based on that topic. Do we anticipate making the site live to search engines and robots before the monetization ask pages are implemented, or having the marketing in first?
I think, well, we need the homepage done. We need to not look messy on the end. But I think we need to sooner than later because it's going to take 3 to 6 months to get a decent position anyway.
Right.
That's my
right. Which is,
so we do.
For sure.
We need the top level marketing on the homepage. Welcome to Dental Insider. The #1 place for dentistry. Blah blah blah. I think we release as soon as that's done. As soon as it's done. But I know we will take a while to come up with more of the one-page asks. But those asks aren't going to be doing anything on the organic traffic end. It's either going to be individual pages that are pop-ups on the other pages, or potentially a container that we add on the top right or left of every page.
Right.
Now, I don't know if this has already been discussed, but are we going to take some time to lay out our goals and timeline officially so we can try to A, adhere to a schedule as best as possible? I know this stuff is kind of all over the place, but B, to set some tangible goals to hope to achieve?
Yeah, I think the time to do that is my personal opinion is once we get what I call that core site done. I think the core site needs to be brought out. We all know that it's the function of having all the information for people to search and filter. And from there, we get into the quote-unquote business talk, which is the marketing and what is our first push for making money? Is it going to be just advertising to add your name on top of Chris Neal for Palos Heights? Or is it going to be something ask dentists for go into their office, take pictures? I mean, that's the big business decisions I think we have in line, personally.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not a tech guy, so I.
Yeah, I know. It's just once again we have a huge data set right now. It's taking a while to clean it up, but once it's done, that's by far our biggest asset. From there, if we can get traffic, we'll win one way or the other. Then it's about the big game of how well do we monetize that? How do we grow out? And other than that, on a tentative plan, I know everyone's discussed this a bit, but our thoughts is a couple months into once we have the site up, once we have those asks clearly instructed, is starting to go with a salesperson and go through with strategies over a couple-month period of, for instance, let's contact the 50 biggest dentists by email and get a call with them to try to close this or that. Or potentially, let's call these next 100 and figure out. I think we're going to have a 2-month period of trying to do things in bulk where other people will be executing them and figuring out what's going to be our easiest revenue in the short term while not sacrificing anything long term, which is hoping more and more users use this as an actual information resource. Yeah, on my end, I think that's pretty much it on my end. I know these are going to be a lot more involved in the future, but I just wanted to give a general overview, make sure everyone's on the same page. Anyone else have any issues to bring up or anything that we need to discuss?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is piggyback of what Chris just mentioned in terms of tangible goals, timelines, and things of that nature, would be developing a business plan that coincides with those, and really is more of a articulated version of the summary you have written here, so it's kind of the official document for the LLC that we're all, adhering to. So just start wrapping our brains around a formal business plan.
Yeah, I'll say our biggest in the weeds premise of this so far is the monetization options. Right now we have a lot of different options. We're obviously not going to be able to do them all at once. We're going to probably be able to do 2 of these. One of them for me, the keyword advertising is a no-word brainer long time, but that does take some cash in the market to have, while the direct emails to dentists asking for possibly even thousands of dollars right up front for a good position on Dental Insider, if we can justify it, is going to fill our pockets sooner than later. So if someone wants to think more of these, I think that's what we really need to get fine-tuned of what's the execution strategy with a couple of these monetizations. So. Okay, I think that's it. I'm going to send out the email. Does any better times work for people in the future? I mean, I'm completely flexible. Is there a better time everyone would, other than evening-ish Sunday, early evening?
Yeah, this is good. I mean, whatever.
It could become problematic if anyone's traveling on weekends. I'll just say that versus a weekday or weekday evening or whatnot. But I mean, in the near future, it works for sure.
Whatever.
And I would think, obviously not all 5 of us are going to make every single meeting, but I would think ideally if someone can at least call in and look at the instructions on GoToMeeting, if you might miss a screen share sometimes to at least be somewhat involved. And I did do it for today. I don't think it's very important, but I do want to record all of these meetings in the future to make sure we all have something to sit back on if we need to reference in the future, or particularly for all of you when I run through things fairly quickly when we have 8,000 different links here to be able to go back on your own and reference to make decisions. So, okay.
Sounds good.
Well, so no one had anything else to bring. I think we're concluded. 35 minutes. I think it's pretty good. Hopefully we can stay this short in the future, but I think that's it. We're moving forward. It takes a while, but hey, let's see. So.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that sounds good. So thank you all for attending, and that's a good conclusion, and we're looking forward. So you want to make it every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay, good enough, good enough. And if anyone cannot make it that day, just let us know beforehand. So if the group can reschedule, fine. Otherwise, like Pat said, and we'll make sure to record this conversation, this presentation each time, so it could be accessible a little later. Thank you.
Nick, can you remember to do that for how long, the recording?
Yeah, I recorded it this time also, even though we didn't want to, just to try it to see how it comes out. So as soon as we have it processed, etc., maybe I'll email it to everyone, to the 5, to the 4 of you.
Upload it in Vimeo like we have before. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yep. So if I remember how to do it, I'll do it, and probably tomorrow, and I'll email it to everyone if you're interested in looking at it, reviewing anything that was said, but at least, to try it. If it works, we should use it each time and make it automatic.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I think we should use that as a precedence recording. All right, bye.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, bye.
All right, take care.